Oxfam International is a confederation of 17 organizations working together to find lasting solutions to poverty and injustice. They work in approximately 90 different countries worldwide. Oxfam was founded in 1942 and was originally set up as a famine relief organization. In 1945, they set up a campaign called European Relief and gathered money as well as food and supplies to send to Germany. Their aims now are to try to find solutions to poverty and other related injustice around the world. The original Oxfam committee was created by a group of concerned citizens in Oxford. This is when they came up with the aim to try to relieve famine in Greece. Oxfam works in several different countries all around the world. Their aim is to save lives by responding quickly with aid and protection during emergencies, as well as trying to encourage people to work their way out of poverty. It is very obvious that poverty is a very big problem for people all around the world and is a problem that needs to be tended to. Sometimes at very drastic situations, help is one thing that comes too late. An organization that involves responding quickly with protection is something that is needed around the world. Oxfam offers many programs and campaigns. This includes the Growth Campaign, the Health and Education for All campaign, the Agricultural Campaign, as well as many more. Oxfam raises money by advertising, collecting charity from money boxes and charity bags, as well as organizing runs. They also gain money because various other companies sponsor them. The people who support them and believe in the cause are usually the people to send the money and give donations. Their website also allows you to donate money. Case Study 1. In September 2013, heavy rain started in Cambodia, resulting in floods. The floods affected people all around Cambodia, leaving people without homes, food, or simple supplies. Although Oxfam was trying its best to help Cambodia in its devastating typhoon and floods, the hunger period had been prolonged, leaving the people of Cambodia to go without food for a long period of time than necessary. Food was not being delivered quickly enough to the people that were in need of it, and thousands of families who were in need of a quick supply of food were unable to get it because they were still stranded in the floodwaters. Oxfam also estimated that about 15,000 households were in need of food and were waiting for immediate assistance. Oxfam had failed to supply food within safe time frames to those in need, leaving people to go hungry. On the other hand, Oxfam had given non-food items to about 5,000 households at this time in 3 hard-hit provinces. Later they had decided to provide food supplies to 1,000 families in addition to their non-food service. Although they hadn't managed to distribute the food supplies over the vast majority of people, they still recognized and were aware of the situation that the people were going through. Oxfam continued working with its government authorities in order to improve the situation of thousands of people. This means that they hadn't only paid attention to certain areas but also to the other people in Cambodia who were suffering from this crisis. Overall, there were an estimated 100,000 people who were affected by the typhoon. Case Study 2. The crisis in Syria was prompted by protests in mid-March 2011 calling the release of political prisoners. The national security responded in brutal violence, even though the protests were initially peaceful demonstrations. During the time of Syria's conflict, over 100,000 people had been killed and over 2 million Syrians had fled Syria. There were 2.3 million refugees who had registered and tens of thousands more people who were waiting to register with the UN High Commissioner on Refugees. Over 4 million people in Syria had been displaced. Since the beginning of all the chaos and violence in Syria, Oxfam and all its branches had only released 3 statements condemning the ongoing violence in Syria. In comparison, they had condemned Syria's neighbour Israel with 9 statements when Syria was in a more serious situation at the time. Oxfam should have focused more on raising awareness of Syria, but they had failed to do so. Oxfam had tried its best to help Syria with its government and opposite group crisis. The UN had estimated that up to 100,000 people had been killed in Syria. About 2 million Syrians had fled to nearby Lebanon and Jordan. Oxfam provided aid to the Syrian refugees. They had helped more than 220,000 people but were continuing to expand their response. Oxfam had also hoped to reach 650,000 people by the end of the year. The crisis had also caused the Syrian infrastructure to be badly damaged due to the ongoing conflict. Oxfam started to work in Syria to provide 300,000 people with emergency water and sanitation activities. When looking back on all the research that I have done on Oxfam, I still believe that my chosen NGO has been successful. In most cases, it has achieved its main goal by supporting countries and responding quickly with aid and protection during emergencies. Also, as part of its goal, it encourages people to work their way out of poverty. It also helped many people to gain their human rights, whether it comes to poverty or basic rights. Even in more complicated situations when the country is involved with governmental issues, Oxfam has still been a great help and helped people to work their way out of poverty.